I change your bum life. You fight me, it's a celebration.
I would beat you.
When you sign to fight me, it's a celebration. You ring back home, you ring your wife. Baby, we done it. We're rich, baby. Conor McGregor made us rich. Break out the red panties.
Are you ready?
That goes in the files.
Are you ready? Let's get it all!
Yo, welcome back to the fifth round. As always, your boy, Stephen Moustaris. And guys, finally, I got my rant out of the way for the whole Francis situation. And to all of you guys that commented on that, it's literally why I do this shit, and I really appreciate you guys. I know I've probably told you through the comments, I appreciate you commenting, talking to me. It's why I do this shit. I've been watching this sport for so long now. It feels like it's been more than half my life. I've been watching it, 16, 17 years now. And I'm only 29, so yeah, big chunk of my life I've been watching MMA and just diehard fan. And, I just don't have the friends that know it the average person knows the NBA or the NFL and stuff. Yeah, we can talk the John Jones, the Conor McGregor, Israel Adesanya stuff, but, to actually talk, the nitty-gritty shit and, what's actually going on in the fights and not just seeing the knockouts or seeing the highlights, I do appreciate you guys for real, and this is why I do it. I don't care about the subscriptions and shit. So seriously, I appreciate you. And with that being said, let's get into UFC 283. Finally, yeah, I know we had our fight card last week, and I know it was pretty fun and everything. And yeah, probably got overshadowed by all the crazy mess that was going on. But finally, we get our first real card, UFC 283 this weekend. I mean, even the prelims, you got a couple really nice ones. I think Warley Alves is on there, who feels like he's been fighting for 20 years. You got Terrance Mckinney, who's one of the bigger up-and-coming names right now. Really wants that Paddy the Baddy fight. Dude's a dog. Definitely be watching out for him. And the fact he's on the early prelims kind of pisses me off, but what can you do? What can you do, They do it for a reason. And then, you even got, Cody Stamann on there, who's definitely taken a big drop in his placement on the card, but still, at least he's still in there. Shogun Rua, I think, is rounding out the prelims. I think he's the main event for the prelims. You got Johnny Walker, Paul Craig, I think is the very first fight of the main card. We'll probably see an absolute massacre between the Jessica Andrade and Lauren Murphy fights. There are the fights on there, but first fight I definitely wanted to talk about, outside of the main event and co-main event, is the Neil Magny and Gilbert Burns fight. This one, it's one of those tough ones. You first see it on paper, yeah, Gilbert Burns is going to win this fight. Not only, if we're going to go serious off of this, man, yeah, he got knocked out in I think it was 2017, I think, to Dan Hooker, and that was his last time that he fought at 155. I think it might even been 2018, but it's his last time he fought at 155. And then after him moving up, the dude just went on an absolute tear. Went on a 6-fight win streak before losing to Usman. He had that nasty win over Tyron Woodley. Had that dominant victory over Damian Maia. Yeah, goes on to Usman, loses to Usman, even though he was a split second away from getting the belt. And then jumps back within, I think it was 2 months. I think he only took 2 months off. Came back, fought a dangerous Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Completely nullified him. Completely did everything he wanted to him. And then a couple months later, his last fight that we saw him in was the Khamzat Chimaev fight. Which, good God. Yeah, if you're a Khamzat fan, you're yeah, Khamzat won that fight. But, there's a lot of us that still think Gilbert Burns won that fight. And it was a really close fight. I don't think anybody's arguing with Khamzat winning. But, boy, to see what Gilbert Burns did in that fight, to show the heart. And yeah, I know he's the higher ranked guy. He had more to lose in that fight. But for him to come out and not to quit at all, especially after getting dropped with a jab early in the fight, for him to come back, knock him down, or as in Khamzat knocking him down, putting him through the ringer, one of the most impressive performances ever by the man. So Gilbert Burns still got it. He's bringing it. And then that's where it leaves you with Neil Magny. Neil Magny might be the most frustrating fighter I've ever watched in my life. Outside of, do you guys, I don't know if you guys remember crazy, but 2014 to 2017 Tyron Woodley, we're talking the most frustrating person you'll ever watch fight. That guy will go out there, put on one of the greatest performances you've ever seen. His Carlos Condit performance. Yeah, Carlos Condit blew his knee out on that one kick, but still, Woodley was looking so good in that fight. And then he's got that same fight that's next, and he'll fight Rory McDonald and literally stand on the cage the entire time, piss you off for 5 rounds, not throw at all. We saw it with Usman. We saw literally 4 straight fights. But Neil Magny is one of the most frustrating fighters you could ever watch, because the guy's literally the John Jones of his own division. He's got the height over everybody, he's got the length, he's got the skills, got the jiu-jitsu skills, and then every time that he proves you oh yeah, he is a good guy, he is a good fighter, he'll beat a Kelvin Gastelum, he'll beat the Jing Lang, the leech. You know, he'll beat a Max Griffin. He'll even beat a Jeff Neal. It's crazy. You'll think he'll lose to Jeff Neal. Comes out, beats him in a unanimous decision, and then the next fight he'll lose a snoozer against, you know, Michael Chiesa, or I know that I don't want to count the Shavkat Rakhmonov fight because that was just not fair for him. Shavkat's the man, and he was who we thought he was. But like, I mean, he'll lose to Sergio Moraes or somebody you've never even heard of, or you know, he'll lose to, even though I love Santiago Ponzinibbio, like I think Jeff Neal's still a little better than Santiago. So it's like for him to go in. So that I know MMA math doesn't always work out, and he's like the prime example, but boy, it's just so frustrating. So with that being said, this is one of those fights that fucking, you know, Neil Magny could easily win. I don't say easily, but this is one of those ones that he'll come out and everybody will put all their money on Gilbert Burns, you know, Dorino, and then Neil Magny will come out and somehow submit him in the first round or just absolutely outclass him for 3 rounds. Like, it's just what Neil Magny does. So yeah, I mean, if you guys are asking me, I'm probably, if I had to put my life on it, I'm probably going clearly with Gilbert Burns. I think Gilbert Burns is just too talented. I could see one of these ones. You know, Neil Magny doesn't do well with fighters who are very, very aggressive. And when we're talking the ground game, I mean, even the stand-up, you've seen over the years how, you know, Gilbert Burns just turns into this aggressive stand-up fighter and he's just knocking people out and shit. But let's not forget, this dude's jiu-jitsu skills is why it's his bread and butter. And when you get somebody on the ground, that man is a vicious, vicious athlete on the ground. So it's one of those ones that I could easily see in Neil Magny getting, you know, knocked down early, getting hurt early, and then maybe he even goes for a takedown and gets Burns down, but then Burns just, you know, either, you know, reverses it or, you know, does some crazy thing, and then he'll get him in a crazy submission or something. So, you know, it's one of those tough ones. You know, I think it's a step down for Gilbert Burns. I think it's a step up for Neil Magny. But it's like, what else can you do with these guys? Neil Magny's been fighting for almost 10 years now. I think literally like February 26th of 2013 was his debut. So he's coming up on 10 years now. I mean, Dorino's been in here for since 2014. So he's going on 9 years now. Like, these guys are legends in the game. It's kind of shocking they haven't fought before. And I know Burns was at 155 for a while. But still, it's kind of shocking they haven't fought. And it's like, but what's this do for him? You know what I'm saying? Like, if Gilbert Burns does win, it's like, okay, you were supposed to win this fight. But then, like, if he goes out there and barely gets the job done, then it's like, oh my gosh, like, what happened there? Was Neil Magny actually that good? Or, you know, if Neil Magny wins, it's like, it's another one of those things. If you're in the UFC shoes, it's like, all right, Neil Magny gets the dub, you know, like, because he is, like I've said, like, if we go through his list, like, the names that he's beaten is impressive, but the names he's lost to is even more impressive, like, or unimpressive, I should say. So, like, it's impressive that he somehow lost those fights is what I'm trying to say. And so, yeah, this is one of those fights he could easily win, but it's like, if you're the UFC and it's like, we've seen Neil Magny for so long, like, this isn't somebody who's young and coming up and who can, you know, completely evolve in his game. Like, no, this man is pretty much at the, like, his max capacity of, like, who he's going to be in a fighter. We've seen who Neil Magny is. And it's like, yeah, okay, he beats Gilbert Burns. Like, can you give him another top 5 opponent or another top 4 opponent or something like that? Like, I don't know if you can, because then what? He'll go against Khamzat or Shavkat again and just actually get just dominated. Or, like, could you imagine what a Colby Covington or Kamaru Usman would do to that guy? And or like even like a Wonderboy Thompson. Like, I think Wonderboy's beating his ass. So, like, and I know they've had a fight fall out before. So I mean, it could be a good name, but I don't know. I find it very hard. I feel like the cards are stacked against Neil here. I think Gilbert Burns gets the job done pretty impressively. Probably, I don't see this fight going over 2.5 rounds. And if it goes 3 rounds, I just think it's Neil Magny showing heart like he always does. Like, Neil Magny is hard to get out of there, to be fair, but it's a lot of the time he almost gets gun shy in there. He gets real scared almost. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I couldn't imagine the nerves going through, but like, I feel like once you fought, I don't know how many, 30 times in the last 10 years, like, because he's an active guy. He's one of the more active fighters on the roster. At least 22 times that he's fought in 10 years. Like, you're going to expect to probably not be as nervous anymore, but hey, you never know. I can't be in it. I don't know what goes on with him. He knows himself more than anybody. Who knows? You know, it could be injuries going into fights. You never know the backstories of these. So, could just be giving him a hard time for no reason. But, you know, I would love to say, if we're looking at this on paper, Neil Magny is way longer than him, got a way longer reach. Like, if he could just stick with that jab and just keep moving and maybe just pick at the legs a little bit with some leg kicks, like, Neil Magny would be so good. Like, the way I use that man in the UFC video game, like, it's the way he should be used in real life, but I know it's way different. Clearly, I know it's way different. It's easy to fight in a video game and take a punch in a game, but when you're in sparring or even in a fight and you take a punch, it changes the whole aspect. So I get it, but still, I think Gilbert gets this done. I just don't know what this does for Gilbert, I guess I should say. Like, yeah, okay, another impressive win. You look good. You bounce back from the Khamzat fight. Even though you might have won the Khamzat fight, a lot of people thought, but it's like I just don't see the clear path of him getting back to the title anytime soon, especially with the whole Edwards-Usman fight just being announced. And if Usman wins that one, I mean, I don't think you run the trilogy back. I mean, that is the trilogy. So, I mean, if Usman wins that one, like, do you want to see, like, I don't know who would even get it. It's probably going to be like a Khamzat or Shavkat they're going to go with, because they don't want to go with anybody else like Colby or anything. But if you're Gilbert Burns and a Colby Covington right now, or anybody who's had a chance to fight Usman and has lost, like Jorge and shit, like, you're rooting for Edwards to win, because then it opens up the whole division. Then Neil Magny sitting there like, I could get a chance. Gilbert Burns could get a chance. Jorge can get a chance. Colby can get another chance. Khamzat can finally come up. Shavkat can finally come up. Like, there's so many people. Sean Brady's still out there doing the damn thing. So there's so many people out in there right now, out in the space, that this division is just so stacked. All these divisions are getting stacked, and I just love it. So it's been the 5th round as always. And let's go, baby.